All right, good, I guess, afternoon now, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I think there's a few people still coming on, but thanks for taking the time to come to this Align Grant information webinar. So this Align Grant was a brand new program last year, and we've now launched the second round of it this year with a few small updates. So yeah, my name is Karen Tilsley. I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships at SHRF. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge how privileged I am to be here today on Treaty 6 lands and homeland of the Métis. And SHRF is dedicated to reconciliation and trying to do better with what we do. So yeah, if everyone could just take a moment and acknowledge where they are today. So the presentation today, I'll very briefly cover a little bit about SHRF and then jump right into the details of the Align Grant, including timelines, eligibility, review process, and I think there'll be plenty of time at the end for questions. You won't be able to talk, but there's a question and answer feature on Zoom as well as the chat. I have both those open. So if I see something pop up that is relevant right away, I'll answer that. Otherwise, I'll leave it to the end. So SHRF is the provincial agency that funds, supports, and promotes the impact of health research that matters in Saskatchewan. And we're really privileged to be able to do that and support all of the wonderful work that's happening here. And our work is guided by 3 strategic goals. The first being to strengthen research capacity and competitiveness. The second, to increase investment in research and innovation. And third, to align research with stakeholders' needs. So our programs are really a way that we can address those strategic goals in a variety of ways by investing in health research and knowledge mobilization. So we've organized our funding programs under 4 umbrellas with different opportunities under each umbrella. So today we are talking about the green line here, connections. And so overall, the connections program is looking to support research that's relevant and usable and help it get to the people who need it in Saskatchewan, who can use it. So we're talking today about the Align Grant opportunity, and there's also the Mobilize Grant opportunity that you'll hear more about in the coming months. Right, so the purpose we have for the Align Grant is to enable a connected research community in Saskatchewan that is well positioned to receive peer-reviewed funding and conduct impactful research aligned with the needs of Saskatchewan stakeholders. So you can see we've put a lot into that purpose, really addressing all 3 of those strategic goals that I just talked about. And really a big focus on aligning the needs of Saskatchewan stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders, you might be asking? Well, really it's anyone that can use the research knowledge, has an interest in it, how it affects what they do, how it affects them, the outcomes of it. So there's a long list here of examples. It's by no means exhaustive, but hopefully gives you a sense of what we mean by stakeholders. And that stakeholders often depends on the type of research you're doing, what stage it's at. So if you want to talk that through, we're happy to do that with you. So the Align Grant has 3 objectives, and you must meet all 3 objectives to be eligible for the funding. And each are really tied to requirements that we've embedded within the application. So the first objective is to increase research relevance and coordination and potential for impact by either enabling the development of those robust interdisciplinary teams that include stakeholders and or doing some research activities that really support the feasibility and help answer questions that are relevant to Saskatchewan. So that the application requirement that really supports that is that the work that you're doing needs to in some way connect outside of academia in a back and forth interactive way. So not just collecting data from participants or subjects for that matter, yeah, more of a two-way interaction there with people outside of academia. The second goal or objective, to increase the quality and success of Saskatchewan applications to peer-reviewed funding competitions. So we have a specific thing in mind here. We're really looking at, they can be SHRF competitions that you're looking to apply for, but not other provincial level or institutional level. So other than SHRF, we're looking for, maybe it's a Western Canadian competition or national, international, those would be eligible. And we're looking for competitive peer-reviewed grant opportunities that are supporting the direct costs of research. And so that really is played out in the requirement to have that plan in place when you apply for the Align grant of where you're going to apply for future funding. The third objective is to support the development of Saskatchewan research and health professional trainees. So we've tried to line up the start dates as best as possible that you might have a student or trainee in any capacity involved, either summer, fall, or winter term. And we require at least one person to be in place, like an actual named person that has a meaningful role in the proposed activities named on the grant. And there could be others, trainees you're hoping to involve in different ways that you are still working to get those in place. So that requirement to have that trainee involved really supports that. So hopefully there's some logical lines being drawn there. The grant is worth $10,000 for up to 1 year. And we really want you to make sure that what you're proposing to do is in balance with the budget that you're requesting. So, if it's just a once point in time survey or something like that, and a couple of meetings, you probably don't need the whole $10,000. So really, and you also don't want to, make it a 3-year grant that you're trying to put into 1 year. So really be cognizant of what is feasible to complete in the 1 year and make sure that the budget reflects that. So you don't need to ask for the full 10,000. If there's more work you need to do, you are able to apply to future calls. And you need to identify that one future funding application that would be submitted within 2 years from the Align grant start date. So we're imagining that you may still need time to develop the grant proposal and apply after completing the work. So that is built in for there. So yeah, someone just asked a question, perhaps summarizing what I've been saying more succinctly. So I wonder if Align funding can be used as the seed money for pilot studies to establish collaborations between researchers and community members. I mean, yes, that's exactly what we're hoping happens. Yeah, as long as those pilot studies include some of that relationship building and not just data collection. So yeah, that's exactly on the right track there. So we're running, as I mentioned, 3 calls per year. And we also have an additional call that's pretty much lined up with the first open call, but specifically focused on child and youth health. As that is, as you may have seen a couple of weeks ago during Health Research Week, we announced a new focus area through our solutions program in child and youth health. So you are permitted 1 application as a principal investigator per intake. And for call number 1, that would be either the child and youth health or the open. So the timelines we're looking at, we've already launched the first call. It's on our website, and the application deadline is at the end of March. And the child and youth health deadline is, oh, that's my next slide. I'll leave that. So the funding would start May 1st. Yeah, call 2 is due July 20th. Call 3 in November. So yeah, hopefully one of those lines up well with what you're planning to do. And we aim to get back to you within 10 to 14 business days. We saw quite a variability in the demand over the past year. So the last round, we had a really high demand and it did take us longer to get back. So we'll try to keep you up. We will keep you updated on any delays there, but the aim is to have a really quick turnaround. And our deadlines are always 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on the day. And these grants do require institutional sign-off, so make sure you leave the time that they need to do their compliance review and provide their signature. Yeah, that child and youth health opportunity has just a little bit of a later deadline of April 13th and funding start date of May 15th. And that's for teams that are looking to apply to the solutions program in the child and youth health focus area this coming fall, or perhaps a future competition with that focus as well. For the Align grants, the principal investigator does need to be someone who is an independent researcher and meets all the requirements that are laid out in the SHRF funding guide. So that's someone that's autonomous, so you can't be a trainee or a contracted employee that answers to somebody else. That your institution allows you to hold peer-reviewed funding, and that institution is one of the ones with the logo displayed on the slide here. And this is not a closed list. This list can grow and change of eligible institutions. Yeah, and then that institution really makes sure that you are conducting research that's ethical and in line with proper supervision of trainees and conducting research, safety approvals, all those kind of things. And we expect that you are actually in Saskatchewan while you're doing the work. When we are building our teams for SHRF grants, there are 3 high-level roles. The first being a co-applicant, and there are 3 descriptors of co-applicants that really reflect the experience or perspectives that the people are bringing to the grant. So co-applicants really play a role in contributing to intellectual, cultural, or scientific direction of the project. Personnel basically are anybody that you want to be compensated from the grant funds and are responsible for carrying out specific aspects of the project. Supporters can be individuals or organizations that have a really defined role or have an interest in the proposed outcomes. And I wanted to mention there has been some confusion about, there is another role in our system called grant writer. And it's not meant just for someone who might have the title of grant writer. We don't really expect that that's the case. It's just to reflect anyone else that might be helping out with your application. Research facilitator, it could be used for your research office compliance staff to have access to your application online directly. So going back to that first co-applicant type, those 3 different perspectives. So all of these people cannot be compensated from the grant, with the exception of honoraria for people with lived experience and specific time release for research activities for knowledge users that don't have research as part of their job. So yeah, researchers, formal training, a position that supports them to do research and they have the expertise related to the project. Knowledge user would be interested in the knowledge generated from it and play an active role in helping move the knowledge outside of the academic walls, so to speak. A person with living experience could be a person that's had an experience with the healthcare system, a particular health condition, an informal caregiver. So they would bring that perspective to the application. And for the Align grant, we are not requiring the contribution forms that you may have seen if you've applied to our other competitions online. So we're not requiring that your team consists of knowledge users or people with lived experience, because that is part of the reasons for having this grant is to help you make those connections with knowledge users and people with lived experience, any kind of stakeholders. So that's not required, but if you do have those connections in place, it might be helpful to yeah, just to show anything that is in place, but it's not required. And just to emphasize again that there must be at least one trainee named in a meaningful capacity. They could be as a co-applicant or a personnel if they are getting paid. Either is acceptable, but of course they can only be paid if they're in the personnel role. And these might not be new people that you're working with necessarily. It's just that you're moving your work into new directions or making new connections. And there was a question about whether adjunct professors are eligible to apply. I'm assuming that is related to being the principal investigator specifically. So yes, as long as they meet all of the criteria that are listed for being a principal investigator, that are laid out in the SHRF funding guide. So if all those are met, then yes, an adjunct professor could be the principal investigator. And then the rest of the team, that's not a concern. And I wanted to take this opportunity to mention something exciting that's happening with our partner Skipper. They've made a lot of progress with this health research data platform in Saskatchewan that's brought a lot of parties together to create a secure data access in a remote environment. That my expertise ends at that statement, but if you think this might be something that would be useful to you, then please do reach out to them. They have an information sheet they can provide, and they have initial steps of consultation, and maybe even just connecting with them. The consultation might be part of your Align grant plan. It might not actually take funds to do that, but it might be embedded within your plan. Seeing what data is available, how it could be used to answer your research questions. So something to consider. They are looking for 4 to 5 projects to be supported in the coming year. So yeah, just wanted to put that on people's radar and let me or them know if you have any questions. So we're getting to the application specifically, the process, the requirements, and the review. So at the heart of it, the applications must address all 3 objectives of the Align grant. It must lay out a clear plan, clear timeline, and clear deliverables. All the roles and responsibilities are clear. As I mentioned, include interactions and connections with individuals or groups outside of academia. And yeah, I want to emphasize that 2-way interaction. And involve or employ at least one named trainee. I think I've mentioned that a few times. Request funding for only expenses required to complete the proposed activity that are not covered by other funding sources, and identify at least one eligible future peer-reviewed grant competition that would be submitted within 2 years of the Align grant start date. Allowable expenses are those that are directly related to the research activities proposed. And yeah, that could be a number of different activities. There could be honoraria in there for participation of non-academics, bringing people together, providing food and beverages, that is allowed. And have a look at our funding guide for really high level policies that apply to all our programs. For example, the SHRF money has to be spent in Saskatchewan is one of those policies. And please do take note that equipment and academic dissemination are not allowable expenses. If you do include those in your applications, we will simply cut that request from your budget. And we are not funding activities for the express purpose of preparing that future grant proposal. We're not paying to literally write that grant proposal. We're supporting the work that positions you to write a good proposal. And yeah, just referencing the SHRF funding guide again there. So the application has moved. Now that we're in the second year, we were able to build it on our online system, the RMS that we call it, smartsimple.shrf.ca. And yeah, so have a look at the application package, which you can find on our website at shrf.ca/align, or there's a separate package specifically for the child and youth health focus area. And yeah, the review process is internal to SHRF, and we're looking at those objectives and application requirements, whether they are the degree to which they are met. Some things I wanted to highlight, perhaps if you had applied last year, maybe you notice some changes. These are really, a lot of these are based on our experience this first year with, this past year with the applications. As I mentioned, this year there is that additional call for child and youth health solutions. And we, having been through the first year now, I think we've made very clear the requirements. So applications will not proceed to review unless all the requirements are met. So that includes having that named trainee and having an eligible future funding application. So if these things aren't met, then you'll just get a message saying your application did not proceed to review. And as I said, we've moved the application online. And so if you email your application, that's no longer acceptable. Some things that I noted here of changes to the application, something we found that was really helpful that we're asking you to include is positioning your proposed activities within the larger picture. So how does it relate to what you've already done, you know, other things that you're doing, and how does it fit into the future? I mean, it's a 3-page proposal, so we're not looking for the nitty-gritty. We're just trying to get that general picture of where you've been and where you're going. We moved the budget justification to be a separate document, and we, since there are no CVs or contribution forms for the Align grant, it's really helpful, and we're asking that you, there's a 2-page document for roles and responsibilities of all the team members, and to introduce the qualifications or experiences briefly of each team member alongside the description of their roles and responsibilities. And as far as letters of support go, there is just a field where the PI for this grant application can simply upload the support letters. The review criteria these are all listed in the guide if you want to come back to them. We're looking at the quality, so the objectives are met. Is it really embodying what we're trying to do with this funding? The team composition, does it involve that opportunity for the trainee? Does it make sense who's involved? And looking to, you know, the future outcomes of applying for funding and that engagement outside the academic community. So keep those in mind. And some tips, definitely based on, you know, our experience over the past year. So I hope these are helpful. It sounds silly, but please do read the application package. It just, yeah, dedicate 15 minutes, read it front to back. And if you have any questions about anything in there, reach out to us. Yeah, make sure you have that target funding application and the stakeholders in mind from the beginning. And expand your ideas of what future funding opportunities could be. So it could be national health charities, other foundations. There might be focused initiatives being funded through government, for example, the federal government. There's often institute level opportunities through CIHR. So really try to use this as a reason to look for those other opportunities and expand and increase your chances for funding to carry on your work. And please help us connect the dots. How will these proposed activities meet the aligned grant purpose and objectives? So we really want to see those lines drawn. And really think about what would you need to strengthen your future research grant applications, and use this aligned grant to help you get there. So that will look different for everyone. Maybe you've received feedback from previous applications. Maybe there's some initial work that will mean that you can hit the ground running with a future grant application. Maybe you've been told you need different expertise or disciplines or perspectives represented on your team. This is a great opportunity to do that. I mentioned the co-applicants and supporters are not required, but they certainly can show the in-kind supports and engagement. Be precise, clear. What are you doing? When are you doing it? When are those milestones going to be completed? Who's in charge of them? We're really looking for clarity there. And we're also looking that your budget reflects your proposal. And it's really helpful if you have any third-party services, for example, that you include the quotes for those, so that we have a sense of how realistic your budget request is. So that's the end of the slide portion. We have my name up here, Karen Tilsley, as well as Tanya Skorbahat. She's our Programs and Peer Review Coordinator, and able to help you with anything related to the RMS, completing the application forms, any trouble you run into logging in, anything like that. I wanted to highlight some areas of our website that are helpful. So our current funding opportunities is where you would find the application package to download. If you haven't already, subscribe. I think it's shrf.ca/contact. You can subscribe to our newsletter and get reminders about deadlines and hear about upcoming opportunities. Have a look at the funding guide, and we also have videos on our YouTube channel that can support you or your team members in doing different aspects of the application online. And I forgot to mention that we recorded this session and we'll post it on our YouTube channel, and we will send out the slides to the registrants for this. And yeah, that comes to the end of my PowerPoint. This just kind of shows you what we covered today, and I am open to any questions. I've got the chat and the question and answer open, so feel free to start typing. Yeah, just some thank you for highlighting the important pieces of the package. So yeah, that's what we're hoping this session does. Yeah, no other questions have come through yet. We'll wait a couple minutes to see if there's any others. I'll put a plug in for, we're having our first in-person event March 29th in Saskatoon. You can check it out at shrf.ca/CYH for Child and Youth Health. So we're excited about all the things happening in that area. Right. Well, really appreciate everybody joining today, and feel free to follow up with questions by email. And yeah, look forward to reading all of your applications. It's really exciting seeing what's happening in the province and where people are looking to go in the future. So I think I will leave it there, and hope everybody has a wonderful day. Thank you.